At that time, there was really no such a thing as gay sensibility in terms of Asian American culture or Asian American studies. This is an ex-lover of a Japanese guy here. Literature is important because it forces you to grasp the human dimensions of the issue beyond the demographic or statistical elements. Sexuality is part of the dimension of being an Asian American. I was born and raised in San Francisco. Third generation. My grandparents came to California to work in the fields and in the restaurants. We lived in Chinatown. I think there was a lot of de facto segregation. At that time, this is before the 1965 immigration laws, so all the Chinese were Cantonese, basically. There was a Red Scare, the scare of the Chinese communists and so forth. So I would say there was a lot of anti-Asian discrimination. As a boy, I didn't know I was gay. I hardly knew I was sexual. At that time, it was just forbidden, any kind of sexuality, whether straight, gay, or whatever. Let's put it this way, being aware I was gay, I think being aware that I was a sexual being, I like to put it that way because it could be very inclusive. When I was younger, I had some girlfriends as well, so it really was not totally gay, I just became a sexual being, I think around 18. I found my mentors through literature, through writers. And so writers like James Baldwin, Yukio Mishima, Jean Genet, Marguerite Duras. She's not gay, but still she writes a lot about sexuality. Movie makers like Bernardo Bertolucci, he did a film called The Conformist about a gay man during the rise of fascism in Italy. A great film and one of my favorite films. So it was these kind of novelists and writers who were kind of my mentors because they put gay men or sexual beings within a wider social context and a wider view of what it could be, what a gay man could be or a gay person could be in the world. I think without them I would have been kind of a goner because the American and Western gay lifestyle and the bars and the bodybuilding and all that's one thing, but it's a little bit limiting. If you read my stories, in Phoenix Eyes, which is a book, a collection of short stories, there's a lot of me in there. It's fiction, but a lot of the emotional part is in the stories. In Phoenix Eyes, I wanted to bring up the issue of AIDS, but I wanted to do it from an Asian and an Asian American perspective. If you read a statistic and say a certain, percentage of Asian Pacific Americans have HIV and AIDS, that's one thing. But if you hear a story, and if you are vested in the story and in the character and what happens to them, then I think you have a different emotional grasp of the issue. So through my edited work and my own writing, I have provoked discussion and dialogue, and so now it's pretty commonplace for young scholars and Asian American studies to include queer studies from an Asian American perspective. Before it was just white, like Judith Butler or a lot of other people, which is fine, but to put Asian sexual and sexualities together was really, that was not the case. Published a volume on the marriage equality debate from an Asian American angle, which included writers like Helen Zia. So Asian Americans have really been involved in the marriage equality debate, but in the mass media they really were not acknowledged. It seems to be sort of a white thing, and the minorities are from traditional families and they're sort of anti-gay and so forth. Many parents have children who are gay or lesbian. I think they had to ask themselves and recognize that this exists. What should my position be on it? They have to rethink it. That's been good for the Asian community as a whole, because not just for the gay Asian community, but just for the Asian community as a whole, that they have to rethink who they are. They have to expand their definition of who's included in the Asian Pacific community. I think my first lover was a Shanghainese student at UC Berkeley. I have had friends and lovers and whatever who are somewhere, my age, somewhere quite a few years younger. But that really didn't make a difference. It really just depended on a certain kind of simpatico, and simpatico is an old-fashioned word. I guess it just means sort of alignment of certain kind of sensibility. I didn't really self-identify as a gay man, even though I might be attracted to men, but I did not really require a label to make love. But nowadays, I guess you do. As far as Tai Chi, I started doing it about 10 years ago. It teaches you to integrate better all your different parts of your body and your breath and so forth. It helps to resolve contradictions in a physical sense, and then from the physical it goes toward the mental and the sort of psychic. So it's really a strategy to resolve mental, spiritual, and physical contradictions. Whether I'm explicit about saying, well, I feel this way because I'm gay, well, the fact is that I'm also an Asian American and I'm also a Buddhist. Everyone wears a lot of hats, so it's really hard to separate them. I would be, I think, supportive of certain kind of social justice issues, and whether that's because I'm a gay man or because I'm an Asian American or an American minority, it's hard to say. But I think they all figure into the equation. There are many issues, whether it's environmental issues, global warming, more funding for HIV, women's rights. Obviously, you're going to be confronted by these issues. Where are you going to put your energies, and what's going to be most important for you? So is it more important to support immigrant rights, or more important to support rights for people with HIV and AIDS? Or maybe you can do both, but in any case, you can't do all of them. So you should choose your fights carefully. And there are enemies in the world. They may not be mortal enemies, but a certain kind of enemies of oppression that one should fight. And so it's important to choose that fight.